Hey everyone, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Witty Wallet. My name is Christopher Fu, founder and chief executive officer, private wealth advisor at Maven Bridge Capital. Today, I just want to take a few moments to recognize and remember Kobe. As you guys can see behind me, I'm a huge Kobe fan. Ever since he came into the league, I was just a couple years younger than him. Um, I just fell in love with the guy. I just, I was Jordan was amazing. And I was thinking as a Laker fan, I was like, man, I wish we had someone like Jordan, on our team so we can start to win. Um, then we got Shaq and then we got Kobe. And I just remember Kobe and just thinking, man, this guy is good. He's gonna be something special. And 20 plus years later, just seeing all the accomplishments, but more importantly, unfortunately, after his passing, we got to hear a lot of his stories and all of the people that he touched and just the amazing things that he did for people on and off the court. And for me, it was really touching at his memorial when Jordan went up to go and speak and just spoke about the relationship and how close they were. I don't know about you, but I had no idea that Kobe and Jordan were that close. I think what we see is the media and everyone comparing, who's better, Kobe, Jordan, LeBron. We see that, but we don't get to see the behind the scenes interactions between these guys that we idolize and that we watch all the time. So I thought it was just amazing to be able to hear and see Jordan talk about that and his relationship with Kobe, and it just made me love the guy um, even more. I was watching a video, and I usually go on these YouTube whole spirals where I just watch Kobe highlights for hours on end. Again, because I just love the guy. But I remember watching this video when he had torn his Achilles heel, and their liquor trainer Gary Vidi, he was telling the story, and Kobe was telling him, "All right, well, can I just tape up the Achilles so I can keep playing?" And yeah, I guess Kobe was trying to move his feet or his Achilles somewhat down and try to supernaturally, connect it so he can just continue to go out and play, which is just amazing. And it was just amazing to see him be able to walk out and shoot those free throws. And he had said he had done that as a jab to Paul Pierce, which I love because, again, if you're a Laker fan, you're not a Celtics fan. And for those of you that remember, unfortunately, when the Celtics beat the Lakers in '08, Paul Pierce got hurt, had to get carried off, wheelchair, looked very dramatic, but here's Kobe, torn Achilles, walking out, shooting free throws, walking back. And then you hear the stories about it. Is just truly inspirational. And like I said, Kobe is one of my biggest heroes. Obviously, that's why I painted him in my home office behind me. And he really inspired me to do a lot of the things that I do in my life. Especially, for example, like this podcast. From most people that know me uh, on a personal level, I'm pretty introverted, pretty kept to self. So I never thought that doing something like a podcast that is so intimate in a way is something that I would be doing. But one of his favorite quotes is, "The greatest thing that you can do is inspire other people so that they can be great at what they want to do." And for me, I feel I get the most joy in helping people and helping inspire people to help them see that you are able to do things that maybe you don't think you're capable of doing. You might need a little bit of help, you might need a little guidance, and that's where there are people around you, people in this world who are willing and who want to help. So that's just something that I take from Kobe that I try to implement and put in my daily practice and daily life, within my family, my business, my personal life. And so I just wanted to share a quick funny story. I don't know if it was funny, but in my industry, as a financial advisor, we have to be very diligent with documentation, right? We have to know as much detail about our clients as possible, and we have to document that, especially when we're opening up new accounts. And so, if you're not diligent in your information when you're opening up these new accounts, your compliance, your back office, they'll come back to you and say, "Hey, you have a NIGO on the application." And NIGO stands for not in good order. And what that means is, well, you got to get some initials, you got to make some corrections, get the client to come back, you know, initial date, make those corrections before we can proceed. If you're good, you're not going to have any NIGOs. If you're bad, you're lazy, you don't, double check your work, you're constantly going to get NIGOs. So why am I bringing this up? Well, if you guys remember last week in the podcast, I had talked about some of the new Secure Act 2.0 legislation that was passed at the end of last year. And well, if you guys remember, one of those acts was talking about how pre-tax or how catch-up contributions for those that are over 50 and you're a high income earner, making over 145,000, that starting in tax year 2024, any catch-up contributions that you make are going to be on a after-tax Roth basis. Well, the American Retirement Association, or ARA, after scanning through the legislation, they found a legislative drafting error, which basically that error, if not corrected, will eliminate all catch up contributions, pre tax and Roth. Huge error. Huge, huge error. I don't know if they had an IGO department. I'm pretty sure they do. Maybe they don't. Um, but at least they have until 2024 to correct this issue. Now, I was reading that it does have to go through Congress to get corrected. So it's just not a quick initials from a couple people. Everyone has to vote on it. So I know they're going to get it done, but I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was interesting. And so also, referring back to some topic that I brought up last week was the debt ceiling. And well, we hit the debt ceiling last Thursday. And for those of you guys that didn't listen to last week's episode, or maybe not too sure, what this debt ceiling is that I'm talking about, think of it as basically the Treasury of the U.S. having a phenomenal credit card and with a very, very high credit limit that basically allows them to spend money for the year. Well, they hit that limit. That limit that they hit, $31.4 trillion. Now, that's not money that they're going to be spending. This is for money that they've already spent. So 31.4 trillion, that's a lot of money. So what does that mean? I mean, you look at the markets today, they're doing pretty decent. We hit the debt ceiling, sounds pretty drastic, right? Well, if we hit it, why isn't the world falling apart? Well, right now, Janet Yellen, she said she is taking extraordinary measures, which are estimated to give her, or basically give Congress time until early June to come together and either suspend or raise the debt ceiling. So, what are these extraordinary accounting measures? Well, they said scaling back some investments into retirement plans for government employees, employees such as civil service retirement and the Postal Service Retirement Health Fund. And also, they're moving money between different government agencies and departments to make payments as they become due. Basically, robbing Peter to pay Paul. moving money around, right? Extraordinary accounting measures, they like to say. But once the debt limit situation is solved, hopefully sooner rather than later, those programs where investments were suspended, they're supposed to be made whole again. So again, we got time, and some people may also be wondering, well, what's the difference between if they were to suspend the debt ceiling or raise the debt ceiling? So good question. So suspending is essentially saying, you know what, we're not gonna do anything right now, and you can go ahead and spend as much money as you need, right? Raising is probably the more maybe responsible um, direction, because again, you're setting a limit, and the goal is to save or set. The Earth is no longer uh, inhabitable, and so they released the time, and it was 90 seconds to midnight, 90 seconds to end of humanity, and in 2020 it was 100 seconds. So they moved a full 10 seconds, which, look at the clock, that's a lot within a 3 year time frame. Now obviously it's all hypothetical, right? It's not a exact science saying, yeah, we get to midnight, the world's going to end. It's all for great and good debate. But why did they move that clock 10 seconds further? Well, a lot of it has to do with the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine continues to persist. uh, America and Germany recently sent over a bunch of tanks over there to aid in the fight over there. So again, it's just continues to cause a lot of uncertainty. And so when we think about that, when we think about this doomsday clock, we think about the war in Ukraine, we think about the inflation rate skyrocketing, and thankfully it's coming down. Inflation hit 9.1%, and it's trending down. At the end of December, it's 6.5%, but it's still high, right? Inflation. These are things that we can't control, right? These are all out of our control, right? For the majority of us. And so, if there is a potential for a recession, well, what do we do? What can we do that is within our control? And there's quite a few things that we can do. And if you haven't thought about this already, you have to start asking yourself, well, what has to happen in order for you to start making some changes? Do you want to uh, not do anything and wait for a recession to happen, or wait for a job loss to happen in your life, or wait for something to happen? Hopefully not. You know, I'm always a firm believer that it's better to be ready and stay ready instead of having to get ready. And so, what are some things that you can do? Well, I would say if you have a family, spouse, kids, but mostly between your spouse, have a family meeting. Have a really good family meeting, and talk about the possibility of, if we do go through recession, what does that mean for our family? What adjustments should we do in preparation for it? Review your budget, right? Review your budget, but I would say before even getting into the budget, step back and review your goals. Review the goals for you and your family, your personal goals, your financial goals, your business goals if you own business. Review those goals. Review the short-term goals, review your 3 to 5 year goals, and review your long-term goals. And whatever goals are no longer important to you, maybe you just move them down lower on the list. And the goals that continue to be important for you, move them up on the higher part of the list. And then when you look at those goals, look at, well, with those goals, what can I potentially accomplish with very little effort? Or what are goals that are going to take a lot more effort, that are going to take a longer time to accomplish? And once you have those goals, then you can start to see how do you adjust your game plan as far as budgeting, right? You're looking at your cash flow, the money that's coming in as far as income versus money that's going out. Typically, as a financial advisor, we say good rule of thumb is to keep around 3 to 6 months worth of your monthly expenses in your savings account as an emergency. Now, monthly expenses does not include going out, to the bar every Friday and having drinks with your friends, your girlfriends. Your monthly expenses that should be part of this formula are your non-discretionary expenses, your important expenses that you can't live without. So, food, obviously, groceries, right? Not Starbucks. That's discretionary, meaning you can live without Starbucks. You can go other ways and get your coffee. um, Mortgage, rent, utility bills, right? Electricity, cell phone bills, things that you need, gas, things that you need to continue to move on and make sure you continue to, stay stable within life, that you can kind of not go without. Things that you can go without, obviously, as I mentioned, Starbucks. If we have 10 streaming subscriptions, do we really need all 10? Are we using all 10? Are there things that we can maybe cut back on? Well, that could go a long way, especially if it adds towards that pot as far as saving for an emergency. And again, having that emergency savings is gives you more peace of mind that, if we do go through a recession, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more prepared, because if I were to lose a job, at least we have that cushion in place for several months to meet our expenses while we're looking for a new job. So again, you're being prepared. You have more preparation. So again, remember, it's a good time to adjust your goals. It's a new year, right? Review your goals, make some adjustments, and then start to look at your budget, look at your spending, and then start to get prepared. Um, you know, I know it's saving for retirement is important, but maybe you don't need to save 15% of your paycheck for this year because you don't have a lot in savings. Maybe you only need to save 10 to 7.5% so that you can free up a little bit more of your paycheck to go towards that saving account. Right, that could be another way of building up your liquid savings if you don't find any room within your monthly expenses or within your monthly budget. Right. Other things is having the right mindset, right? Having the right mindset, I think, is very important because, as I was mentioning earlier, without preparation, we kind of just right now would be moving along aimlessly and waiting for something to happen. And I feel that the more prepared you are, the more you're able to thrive and survive through a recession and thrive coming out at the other end of it, and ready to, conquer and move on to your next goals. Now, some of the other things that you might be able to do: hire a financial advisor. If there's some areas in your financial life that are just maybe a little bit too overwhelming, or maybe just not too sure of whether you're doing the right thing or not, there's a lot of online blogs that you could read. A lot of great people out there who are, or like I said earlier in the podcast, are willing and want to help people, especially when it comes to securing a better financial life. So again, everyone thinks that a financial advisor is only for the super wealthy. There's this stigma that, oh, only rich people have, financial advisors. It's not true. There's a lot of financial advisors out there, like I mentioned, who want to help people and who want to be able to give education to help people feel more empowered and feel more secure in their financial life. But again, it all starts with you guys. It starts with having an awareness of, first of all, what is going on in the world, and also, more importantly, what can I control and what is out of my control. Because oftentimes we think about so much the things that are out of our control, and that leads us to make irrational decisions, right? Just kind of share a little bit of a story. Again, I have clients that I help, manage with their wealth. And, you always hear these stories in my industry that people are coming in, they want to, pull their money out of the portfolio because they heard this on the news, or they heard this and this analyst on the news said, time to get out now, right? No one has a crystal ball. If we had a crystal ball, we wouldn't need anything, right? Because we'd just be able to do whatever we wanted because we know what's going to happen. But that's not how life works, right? And those things that are not in our control, we can't let those things dictate and overtake what we can control, which is, again, our spending, our goals, having our awareness, and having our mindset to continue to achieve and want more for our families. So, again, I would say focus on the things, again, that are within your control. Make sure, again, that your families are on the right page. I think that's very important point that I want to stress is have those family meetings. If you're married, you have a spouse, and one of you is the main person that takes care of the finances, and the other one just, you know, um, is heavily reliant on the other one. Well, don't let that be the case. Share the responsibility somehow. Um, Talk to each other about the finances. Share those goals. Share what adjustments you need to be making because it's important. It'll help um, secure and allow you to guys to feel more confident as we go through whatever we end up going through in this next year. So for those of you that want to learn a little bit more, I have an article that was featured in the Fox Interviewer: 5 Ways to Get in the Right Mindset to Survive in the Next Recession. I'll go ahead and include that in the show notes as a link, so you guys can read that and learn a little bit more and some extra tips that you can utilize to help prepare yourself even further. And as I mentioned last week, I wanted to bring up Financial Fit Challenge. Again, how financially fit are you? Talking about, as we were just saying, going into preparation for a recession, whenever that is supposed to happen, right? How ready are you? How financially fit are you? Well, I challenge you guys by going onto our website, mavenbridgecapital.com/FFC, and take the challenge. It's fast, free, it's anonymous. It takes 5 to 7 minutes. There's no sign up required. Email is optional. And essentially, what you're going to get out of this is you're going to get a snapshot of where you're at today. And it's going to give you some educational tools and tips to say, okay, this is where you're at. These are some areas that we think you can improve on. It's going to give you an idea of, like I said, where you're at. And if you don't like what you see, well, that gives you some action that you should be taking in order to get to where you want to be, right? Because again, if we want to get somewhere but we don't know where we're at currently, how do we know? How can we measure that? How do we know what work we need to do in order to fill that fill that gap? So again, I challenge you, take this assessment. Like I said, it's free. It's fast, 5 to 7 minutes. It's anonymous. There's no sign up. Email is optional. And you also can do a bonus life assessment, which I like. It helps kind of give you a balance of or sees how balanced your life is from health, spiritual, family, personal. It's a great tool. I like to do this tool about every quarter just to kind of see, where me and my wife where we're at from a financial point of view and from a personal point of view. So again, I challenge you guys to take this fit challenge. Like I said, I'll put the link in the show notes, but head on over to mavenbridgecapital.com/FFC. And so before I leave you guys, I just wanted to read a quote from one of the books that I enjoy reading, the Almanac of Naval Rampant. And in this quote, he says, "No one can compete with you on being you. Most of life is a search for who and what needs you the most. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in to this episode of the Witty Wallet. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Private Wealth Services, LLC, and affiliate of Kestra is Maven Bridge Capital and Kestra Investment Services are not affiliated. Kestra is and Kestras do not provide tax or legal advice. The opinions expressed in this commentary are those of the author and may not necessarily reflect those held by Kestra Investment Services, LLC or Kestra Advisory Services, LLC. This is for general information only and is not intended to provide specific investment advice or recommendations for any individual. It is suggested that you consult your financial professional, attorney, or tax advisor with regard to your individual situation. Comments concerning the past performance are not intended to be forward-looking and should not be viewed as an indication of future results.